Welcome back, everybody. I'm Giles, and tonight we're going to talk about something pretty darn cool. I'm joined by Richard Hinthorn from Acurus and Aragon, and we're going to talk all about their sound room at Cedia 2024. Richard, welcome. How are you?
Good, good.
Man, I was at Cedia, and I got to see a lot of stuff, and I must say, I was really impressed by your sound room. I mean, you guys you brought your A game to this thing and it was firing on all cylinders. So first off, I just want to say congratulations on that. It was really, really cool. I mean, was this your brainchild?
A little bit. So we did things a little differently. We did two demos in the same room. We did our two-channel Aragon setup,
Mm-hmm.
and we did our 9-10-6 home theater setup with 22 kW. We had 10 Dynaudio core subs with 40 10-inch drivers, and we were able to debut our even bass technology with Aspect.
Yeah, and that I think is key. I mean, it just the whole room was a little bit different and a little bit cooler than a lot of the other rooms, if that makes sense, right? So, I can't think of anybody else that was doing a true two-channel system, right? A
Mhm.
separate independent system. So that was really awesome. And
Right.
then you had your multi-channel processor, firing on all cylinders, and then man, the bass stack that was kind of ridiculous. It was kind of cool. A lot of folks had huge stacks of subwoofers, but I really like the way that you guys designed that and put that all together. But outside of the kind of raw speeds and feeds and how many of this and how many of that, I think really where you found success was just in the performance of the room, if that makes sense, right? And maybe you could talk a little bit about the comments that you got back about the room and what you felt was special and how it showed the level of performance that Acurus and Aragon kind of bring to that arena.
So I'll start with the home theater side. Where we pride ourselves is our processor and our amps are audiophile first. And so we
Right.
did a setup that was sound quality first, fatigue free. If we wanted to play it very loud, we could without anybody, covering ears. Because when something's really clean and nice sounding, it doesn't seem aggressive, right? Even when
Absolutely.
we did that John Wick punching scene and it was like, extremely high peak SPL, people were kind of like, ooh, nobody covered their ears. It was very smooth and well delivered and even. I
Mhm.
think you came in there and spent some time in the room
Oh,
and
absolutely.
you
Yeah.
could move around to different seats and get a really good presentation everywhere.
Yeah, so I did notice that the new technology and aspect really was bringing some love to the smoothness of the bass as far as
Right,
room modes were concerned, right?
right,
So
right.
that's the new secret sauce that's inside of the tool, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, right on. So let's talk a little bit more about that if you don't mind, because I think that's one aspect of the that doesn't get enough attention. And I
Right.
think people need to understand it a little bit more. Maybe you could take 30 seconds or a minute and talk through the components of the system and what all it will do for someone who installs, I would assume, both a Muse or an Act 4, correct?
Yes. Are you talking about aspect in general or what we're
Well,
doing
in
different with
general,
those?
and then let's get into the
Okay.
bass piece specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So aspect is neat because it works different than every other system on the planet for a good way. And that means the dealer buys the system once or a customer can borrow the system from their dealer and they get a professional level toolkit to calibrate their room. And it's
Right.
able to pick up the sound in four places simultaneously. There's four microphones. And so we do not change the house sound of your speaker whatsoever. It just helps with the room modes without changing the house sound of your speaker. So your Focal speakers still sound like Focal. Your B&W still sounds like B&W, Totem like Totem, Dynaudio like Dynaudio. We don't take one speaker and hammer it down and do some house curve it does not fit.
Gotcha.
And so that's kind of where our system differentiates. And then at the show, we've been working on a new algorithm to get really even bass response in the room when we're able to debut that. And it worked really well. We had guys kind of take us up on the musical chairs offer. It was very even between 20 hertz and 80, any seat.
Mhm.
And what was cool about it was not only was it even, but we weren't wasting any wattage or cone displacement. Every sub was positively contributing. None of them were absorbing energy or anything like that. So all 40 of those 9.5-inch Dynaudio drivers were able to work. And we were able to get the most out of that, which is important because those sound rooms are a little bit lossy. I mean, they're prefab panels.
Yeah.
And so in order to get the most out of it, everything has to pull its weight.
Yeah. And, for folks that didn't make it out to hear this, it really was cool. And, the Substack was outstanding. And, I guess this technology was the secret sauce there to really pull it together. And what is really kind of a, not the most forgiving location, make it sound superb. Another thing I want to talk about really is, as we dig into kind of the technology stack on the processor side, you've got, Aspect, which, I kind of think of as the interface between the processor and the amplification of the speakers, right? It makes sure that everything's sounding the way that it ought to sound.
Right.
Another big piece is that interface between, the inputs and the outputs on that processor, which is HDMI. And, that's one of the places where, whether it's a processor, AVR, whatever it might be, that different devices often fall down and don't work as well as they should. But, it seemed like this time around for you guys, that HDMI, particularly the synchronization piece, was just spot on, right? I mean, things seem to be working pretty well. Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, we actually had a lot of positive feedback there because since we were demoing two separate systems and I would shut off the processor and do 2-channel and go back and forth, the second I would hit play on a clip, we would have audio and video. We never had purple screens. We never had a loss of audio. And usually shutting off your processor and leaving the source and the display on is kind of a recipe for problems. And we were doing that throughout the whole show, all 3 days, and no issues. And in the 2-channel system, that real quick, I'd like to touch on that. We had a separate Aragon system with Iridium monos. We had the Tungsten Pre, and we had the Confident 60s that were in the background of the last live stream we did, brought them to the show. And it was an outstanding 2-channel experience. And I think that's huge because the guys at, the Cedia show, where it's mostly home theater based, but a lot of the guys are also doing 2-channel. And we had some people in the room that was like their first time hearing an awesome 2-channel set. We had seasoned guys that were really able to enjoy it, and they were like, "Hey, I love the amps. Let's do something." So it brought a lot of new attention to us, and not only did we pick up guys wanting to do the home theater product, but guys are really wanting to do the 2-channel side of it as well.
Let's talk a little bit about the I think it's the Tungsten, right?
Yes, sir.
The preamp, right? Now that unit brings a lot of sensibilities that that I think are really key from kind of the digital world, right? So it's not your pure kind of analog old school device. Can you talk a little bit about kind of the technology forward features that box has?
Yeah, so think of it like all the best things we like about a stereo preamp and all the best things we like about a surround processor together in one box. So it's sound quality first. It is a 2-channel unit, but we can do aspect in it. Now at the show, I did not do that because I was just trying to be a purist, but absolutely, if we had a troubled room, we could have taken advantage of aspect to get better bass response. Also, we can do 2- and 3-way crossovers, so you can do any kind of subwoofer array you want, but you can also remain analog direct. And because we needed HDMI to make aspect work, it does have HDMI switching 4 in, 1 out.
That's crazy cool. I mean, that's what I like to hear when when somebody talks about 2-channel, because that's the way that I like to do 2-channel, right? Maybe I'm just not the huge analog purist that your typical audiophile is, but when you can bring this kind of technology to a 2-channel stack specifically, it really makes me kind of perk up and think about, this is how I want to do it. It gives me the control that I want over the environment and the sound, and I'm not at the mercy of everything else. I feel like I can do things if I want to make it perform in the way that is the most pleasing to me, right? So I really appreciate that. Now, I do want to jump back a little bit to the multi-channel processor, right? And talk a little bit about the HDR and the pass-through on the video side, right? So, one thing I've noticed is that on this processor, the video pass-through here is really kind of part of the design philosophy of the unit, right? So that, anything that you plug in there is pretty much going to pass through to your screen unadulterated, right?
Yes, there's no on-screen display. There's no GUI on the TV itself, and so we're not doing anything to tamper with the video output. Our
That's
GUI is
cool.
on the front panel of the unit or the web UI. We
Right on.
have no desire to tamper with the video streamer quality itself.
Cool, cool. So, I guess to start wrapping things up a little bit, from your perspective, what were your favorite pieces of the room? What to you, kind of as an insider, stood out that you would want to draw attention to?
Well, for one thing, not so much the room, but in showing off our gear in that room, we played an old clip from Master and Commander to show off how our up mixer works
Mhm.
exactly as it should. And I know the Dolby up mixer is a recipe that everybody has access to, but we followed it right, and it was able to give us stuff raining down on people. The effects were exactly where they should be in the overhead speakers. So we were able to take that oldie but goodie track and really enjoy it. And since all of our equipment is sound quality first, whether I was playing that or Bohemian Rhapsody or Fury, everything was clear. It was not harsh. We were able to enjoy a lot of nuance. I mean, even something like playing the beginning to Back to the Future, where you have all the different clocks and everything going on, is very interesting on our processor because of the sound quality, the fidelity of every single channel of that unit. And I think that transcended into that demo.
Yeah, I will agree with that. And so I did a bunch of polling after and during the show, right? So I get together with my peers and we say, oh, what do you got to see? What do you got to do? And your room always came up as for a couple of different reasons. One, people really like that you were showing off a variety of technology and it wasn't more of the same, right? And people really like that Master and Commander clip too, and they were super shocked by the John Wick bass hits, as he's punching the wooden punching practice thing, whatever it's called. They really enjoyed that, and they also really enjoyed the fact that the clarity of that 2-channel implementation was outstanding. And I had more than a lot of people talk about when you would play the song Queen Mary. I think that's the name of it, right? And it's
Yes,
got that tick,
Francine
tick,
13.
tick sound.
Mhm.
And I don't know, had 10, 20 people, as I talked about, said, oh, you got to go listen to the 2-channel because they play that song that goes tick, tick, tick. And it sounds like it goes like this throughout the room, right?
Mhm.
So, it was very exciting to hear people's thoughts about that system because it is absolutely one of the standout sound rooms at the whole of Cedia. So kudos to you guys for
Thank you.
putting on that show. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and close it up. Thank you so much for taking the time to go over the sound room that you guys put together, Sound Room 9 at CEDIA 2024, a smashing success that I think demonstrated all of your technologies, everything from 2-channel to multi-channel to processor to pre-pro to amplification. The whole stack was outstanding. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. As always, it's a pleasure, Giles.
All right. Take care.